Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Fran, and today I would like to talk about how to turn even your worst nightmare into a dream, how to turn your spiraling into a tool to unearth and remove limiting beliefs once and for all. I will give you an example of what has happened to me in the last few days, how I let my thoughts spiral out of control, how my emotions followed, and how this was reflected in the 3D screen of space in my physical reality, so to speak, until I realized what was going on and regained control of my experience. Now, it doesn't matter how much you know about quantum physics, the law of assumptions, how your imagination and your thoughts create your reality. We are all human. We are all biological beings driven by our hormones, by our programming, by our physiological needs. Unless we manage to shift our awareness from our immediate reality to our preferred reality, no matter how real the former looks and how unlikely the latter appears. If in the middle of our spiraling, you can catch yourself and, in spite of your emotions, slightly shift your awareness to the desired reality, doors will open and things will happen which will expose your deepest limiting beliefs and prove your ego wrong. You will be able to look at your mistaken assumptions straight in the face and challenge them. If you can't do that, your emotions spiraling out of control will be your most powerful manifestation tool. You see, when we spiral into the vortex of negative thoughts and emotions, although we feel like we've been triggered by external circumstances, the enormity of our emotional reaction usually does not compare to the quote-unquote size of the trigger. What triggers you probably leaves many others indifferent. So the reaction is not caused by the trigger itself, but by our personal interpretation of the trigger. What does it represent to us? Does it confirm our core beliefs about ourselves, the world, reality, life in general? Does it reinforce our limiting beliefs and negative assumptions? If you are having a strong emotional reaction to your current circumstances, chances are that you're not just reacting to your present events, but to your past experiences too. Although your subconscious mind is addicted to the feeling of being right and it wants to confirm its negative or dysfunctional assumptions, every time it does so, it hurts. You experience this internal conflict between the conscious and the unconscious mind, between wanting to be right and hoping to be proven wrong. So while your rational mind may understand that your beliefs are dysfunctional, the subconscious mind is in autopilot and it will automatically respond to events and circumstances unless, that is, you disengage the autopilot and make the conscious effort to challenge your automatic reactions time after time after time. Stare at them straight in the eye, question them, accept them even, then ask yourself if that is the only possible explanation for events and whether yours is the only possible reaction to the same events. Could you be mistaken? Could you be blinded by your limiting beliefs and dysfunctional assumptions? No matter how strong your emotional reaction or the need to be right, or the feeling that yours is the only possible explanation, know that that is your belief system talking. So this is what happened to me in the last few days. Remember, the circumstances need not be big in order to stir up big emotional reactions. And if you think, well, that is nothing, know that it didn't feel like nothing. It felt like a big thing. And that is one of the signs that you are not just reacting to your present circumstances. So I went on this trip to LA. I was working on the flight as I'm crew with an airline. And before leaving, I visualized the perfect trip. My working position, my colleagues, the passengers, etc. Now, things seemed to run really smoothly. I got my favorite working position in spite of having second last choice. Everything ran smoothly. My manager was absolutely lovely and funny too. And then we had a famous actor and a famous singer on board. Now, I won't mention any names for Data Protection Act, and also it's not really relevant to the story, but I had visualized all this happening before the briefing, before the flights. So this is why I'm sharing it with you. So the VIPs were really polite, approachable and friendly, and it made for a fun flight. Now, what started happening was that I had had no sleep that night, as I had left the house really early to avoid rush hour traffic. The flight was 10.5 hours long. We had finished a long and extremely busy service, and now we were waiting for our breaks. Time started slowing down and fatigue set in. The reason I'm painting this picture is so you understand that your subconscious mind tends to take over when you're tired, stressed, scared, fatigued, when your body is under strain, or when your conscious mind is overworked. They hand the reins to your subconscious mind. In other words, they switch on the autopilot in order to save energy and cognitive resources. Now, if your subconscious programming is healthy, that is all good. But if it contains limiting beliefs and dysfunctional assumptions, then this will begin to run the show undisturbed and wreak havoc in your life. Now imagine a tired bouncer who falls asleep and lets in thugs and armed people into a busy club. They're bound to wreak havoc, right? The same happens to your experience when you're drunk, tired, overworked, etc. Your conscious defenses go down and you start manifesting from your past. So as we are waiting for our breaks, my legs feel really tired. My feet are sore and swollen, my eyes get heavy, but I need to stay awake and alert. So my mind starts wandering in order to keep me awake. And it wanders in all the wrong familiar places. It wants to moan about the bloody pandemic, about people not having improved, about the stupid war in Ukraine, about the stupid mask on my face, which keeps me from breathing properly, and on and on and on. At this point, my colleague tells me that she has a really bad sore throat and that she's not feeling great. Now, press the pause button here, because here's where things start spiraling out of control. I get angry, really angry at my colleague for coming to work not feeling well. Now, notice that she hasn't actually said that she was feeling unwell before coming to work. I chose to assume that. Now, since I cannot express my anger outwards, I start pushing it inwards, and it festers. By the time I get to the hotel and meet the crew for a drink, I feel unwell. My chest is hurting, it burns when I breathe, my head is throbbing, and I feel sick. Notice this, out of 12 crew, I am the only one to feel ill. The pain and the symptoms are real. I'm not imagining them, yet no one else has caught anything except me. As I feel physically ill, now my anger spills over and I share my feelings with the rest of the crew about this girl coming to work with symptoms. I wake up the next morning and my whole body aches. It hurts when I breathe and I feel very weak, and now I am fuming. I know that my thoughts and emotions manifest and create, and yet I let my thoughts run wild. My body is too tired to fight my negative assumptions. I'm in automatic mode. I'm in autopilot. So I'll go for a coffee to try and relax. I open my messages and I find a message from my next door neighbor who has my house keys for emergencies. It reads, "Hi Fran, just to let you know, I gave you keys to your builder. He's gone with them. Not sure if he's coming back, and I need access to the garden to trim the edges. Can you please contact him and tell him to bring the keys back?" Now, imagine this. I'm jet lagged. My mind is hazy. I'm angry at my colleague. I ache all over. My head is throbbing, and I get this message. I hardly know this builder. I've only seen him twice before, and he's gone with my house keys. My mind is truly racing now. I will need to change the locks. It will cost me more than my monthly wages. This is if it doesn't ransack the flat before I get back. And before I know it, an insect turns into a monster. Now, I'm in fight or flight. I feel persecuted by life. You cannot trust anyone. I always get punished by life. Blah, blah, blah. I'm in full victim mode. I see no way out. As I cannot do anything from where I am, I start visualizing a positive outcome, but cannot come up with anything. Nothing. My mind is blank. So I remember this sentence: some way, somehow, this situation will resolve itself and I always get what I want. So I feel slightly better, but I can't stop the ruminating and the worrying. So I share the story with my colleagues who only echo my concerns, and the fears expand and get magnified. By the time I land back in London, I'm a bundle of nerves and a physical wreck. I feel exhausted, mentally and physically. Now, the service has gone pear-shaped. People have been forgotten and missed out. The manager is unhappy. I'd fallen out with two of my colleagues, and now I want to cry. I don't even try to imagine a different reality. There's no point right now. So I am now spiraling, and there is no way to stop it. So I pull my uniform scarf out of the bag, as it's going to be cold outside. So I place it on my bag and do my security checks. Now, a lady needs assistance to carry her cases up the jetty as she didn't get a stroller from the hold. Long story short, all my colleagues have left by the time I go back and retrieve my bags. So I grab them and run off. I'm out of here. I walk for about 25 minutes in my high heels and sore feet before I get to the baggage carousel. When I get there, I realize that my uniform scarf is not on my bag where I left it. Now, first of all, it's really hard to reorder uniform items. They are very expensive and there is a big waiting list to get them back. It's winter in England and the scarf is the only thing keeping me warm outdoors. So I really want to cry, not only because of the missing scarf, but mainly because of the feeling of being cheated by my colleague. I assume it has been stolen. So I'm tired, jet lag, nauseous, ill, and now this. The option is to go all the way back to the aircraft in the hope that in the meantime, no one has been on and the cleaners haven't thrown it away, if it were there in the first place. But it's now 40 minutes after landing, and the chances of it being there, even if it hadn't been taken by the crew, are extremely slim. Finally, I don't even know if it's possible to go back through passport control the other way around. So I share my concern with some of the crew that the scarf might have been stolen. I mention no names, of course, but I think they can guess my thoughts by the people who are not present. I know what you're thinking. This is an extremely unspiritual way to behave. But the reason I'm sharing this with you is to explain that we are all human and that we all spiral out of control when we are triggered, sick, emotionally overwhelmed, drunk, scared. When our sleep pattern has been disturbed, we regress back to our childhood under those circumstances. We all fall back into our familiar dysfunctional ways unless we have eradicated our deepest limiting beliefs at the root. Remember the old gardening metaphor. If you keep cutting the weeds at surface level, they will just keep growing and maybe even get stronger and multiply. You have two options. Either you keep planting flowers and plants until you completely starve the weeds of any oxygen and nutrients and they eventually die on their own, or you have to dig them out at the root, which can involve quite a bit of hard work and sweat and may even leave some visible holes in your lawn unless you replant the lawn. So no matter how many surface affirmations you repeat, unless eventually you face your limiting core beliefs head on, and unless you are constantly challenging your negative assumptions every moment of the day, then your subconscious will keep reproducing and reflecting the old reality out there in your 3D, in your physical reality. Now, the great news is you can use your spiraling emotions to your own advantage. You spiraling out of control can be your best tool to turn things around and change your core beliefs. So please stay with me. This is what happened next. I thought for a moment, do I give up on finding a scarf and reinforce my initial belief that people are out to get me, that they cannot be trusted, that life is unfair, etc., etc.? Or do I take deep breath, visualize my desired outcome, and face the fact that I might be, dare I say it, wrong? So I took a deep breath and then I closed my eyes. I visualized myself finding a scarf on the jump seat. Although I had no conscious memory of it having been placed there, my only memory was of the scarf being on top of my bag. But I kept visualizing it there on my jump seat, and then I felt what it would feel like to wear it, the touch of the fabric against my skin, the warmth, and also the satisfaction of finding it. So I ran all the way back to the aircraft. I speak to passport control who let me in. Then I speak to the ground staff who helped me find the gate I just landed at. And as in arrivals, it's not always obvious where you arrive. And then on the way back, I keep visualizing me finding a scarf. Now, when I get to the aircraft, there is no stuff inside. No cleaners have been on, and the scarf is right there. Not on the jump seat where I had imagined it, but right opposite. So in case you wonder whether the memory was there in the recesses of my tired mind, it wasn't, as it was in a slightly different place. In any case, as I wrapped the scarf around my neck and felt like I'd felt in my visualization, I sat down on the jump seat and cried. I know what you're thinking. What, you cried over a scarf? And the answer is, of course not. I cried because I suddenly realized that all those years of struggle, pain, suffering, and disappointment had been down to this one limiting belief of mine. People cannot be trusted. People take advantage of you. Life is unfair. People cheat and lie, etc., etc. As I sat there sobbing, memories came rushing back of my childhood. Heavy stuff, how as a child I had been let down and betrayed by adults that I had trusted deeply, people I loved dearly, people I looked up to. And as tears rolled down my face, I wondered, how could I have created those circumstances in my life as a child? Surely children are complete blank slates, or are they? But here's the thing, even when we are in our mother's belly, from the moment we are conceived, we perceive the world as our mothers do, through their emotions, which affect the internal environment, the chemicals in the bloodstream, and therefore the fetus. By 9 months, our belief system is pretty much established. So we experience what our mother experiences, albeit indirectly, through a belief system. And so as I sat there and released that belief, I let it go. And then I hear a notification on my phone. It's a message from the builder which reads, I don't know what you're freaking out about. I only have had your garden gate keys and I've already returned them. Then another message from my next door neighbor saying, sorry, I fell asleep. I should have let you know that it was all resolved. Wow. So I sat there and let the reality of what has just happened sink in. And then I texted the crew on our group chat to let them know that I'd found the scarf. Now, it wasn't pleasant, but it was necessary, not only to dispel any doubts about the crew I had blamed, but most of all to acknowledge my mistaken assumptions. I realized that my fears were due to that my tears were due to the huge relief I felt in letting go of that old belief. The grief I felt was for my past self, how I had limited my life because of that one belief, how I had reproduced dysfunctional relationships over and over because of that one unchallenged assumption. Months and even years of seemingly empty affirmations had finally managed to dislodge this one powerful core belief. I then forgave myself for having held that belief. I know it wasn't my fault. I had inherited those beliefs from my parents and they from the previous generations, and that perhaps my unearthing these assumptions and challenging them was part of my life journey. Maybe I could help others expose and challenge their own negative assumptions and limiting beliefs. Maybe I can help people see the gift that lies in your most challenging times. Maybe I can help you see that your strength and power lies in what you perceive as being your deepest weaknesses. If you have the courage to be proven wrong, there is freedom and power on the other side of struggle and suffering. So don't beat yourself up when you're spiraling, when your negative emotions take a hold on you and you give in to your automatic reactions. We are all human. We are implanted in these limited bodies and we are controlled by our biology to a certain extent. But If we become aware of our emotional triggers, we can lift the veil on how we create our physical reality on a day-to-day basis. When you keep challenging your limiting beliefs, eventually you will see evidence which will disprove them. So don't give up. Even when it seems like nothing is changing, your assumptions are gradually shifting, and you spiraling out of control may be the best gift yet. It could be the gateway to your new self. If you use it to explore your existing beliefs rather than to punish yourself, in the end, it is not what happens to you which creates your future life, but how you react to it. When you are spiraling, ask yourself, what is the belief that hurts so much, which is causing my emotions to spiral out of control? Which is the belief that this experience is seemingly confirming? What assumptions about myself is this fact apparently reinforcing? If you are honest in your answers, you will find a belief that you will need to unearth and replace. So be grateful for your emotions. They are always there to guide you to a higher version of yourself. The reason that we've developed fear and pain is to protect ourselves from danger. So if we put our finger on a hot stove, for instance, our sensory neurons will send a pain signal to our central nervous system so that we can retract our hand and prevent any further damage. The same applies to painful emotions. They pinpoint the negative assumptions that we need to retract our attention from. So instead of trying to avoid your painful emotions, use them as a tool, use them to your advantage to create a limitless life. So this is it for today. I intend that the content of this video will help you become a surfer in the stormy waters of life. If you've come this far and found this podcast useful and helpful, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. In any case, thank you for listening. Have a wonderful, awakened life.